Captain Fall is a new animated dark comedy on Netflix about a gullible captain named Jonathan Fall, voiced by Jason Ritter, who takes lead on a cruise ship without realizing that his crew is a bunch of smugglers. On this podcast, we like to discuss the most recent installment of a different series every show. It's Friday, August 4th. Welcome to today's episode. Have you heard of a series called Norsemen?
No.
Not the movie, the one that came out like
last year. Yeah, no, I
Alexander Skarsgård? Was he the one who was in that Norseman?
Yeah.
And that got pretty good reviews.
So
did the TV series, and it was actually a Norwegian series. Came out a few years ago, has a 7.7 on IMDb. They shot it both in Norwegian and in English.
Oh, wow.
It's on Netflix right now. You can go watch it. It's kind of like a Game of Thrones Vikings parody. And
parody. Okay, so it's a comedy.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it, does it? Yeah. Norseman, but it's like Another Period or The Great, where it's like a period piece, but at the same time the characters are acting absurd and crazy. And it was made by these two guys named John Ivar Helgacker and Jonas Torgerson, the same two people who created Captain Fall. But they actually pitched it to Netflix as a live-action show. And it would have been similar to their Norsemen show because they both take place on ships. There was a lot of Viking ships and moving around. But Netflix was the one who said, you know what? Maybe we'd actually like to do animation for this. And so they brought aboard one of their people that they had under contract, Joel Trussell, an animator who's done a bunch of stuff. I'll give you a little test question here. He's done one of these shows. Two of them are fake. See if you can get the right one. Okay. Breadsticks and Brooms Tricks, Pickle and Peanut, Jethro the Sock.
Jethro the Sock is the fake one, I'm going to say.
No, there's two fake ones and one real one.
Okay, then the broomstick one, the first one that you said.
That one's the real one?
Yes.
That one's the fake one. Pickle and Peanut was the real one.
Pickle and Peanut?
Yes.
When did that come out?
It's a kid's show. I think it's on like Disney Plus or something like that. I don't know, but that's what he was working on for a while. He went on to do this. Guy from Tennessee. It sounds like there was a lot of different countries that played an impact in making this show, which is kind of ironic because it doesn't seem like it's being publicized a lot. Well, I like literally, besides just the homepage of Netflix, I don't think I've seen an ad for Captain Fall.
It's interesting you say that because I watched the first episode of this and I have to be honest, I hated it. I would have given it like a 4 out of 10. I did not like how unlikable the characters were.
I did hear it start slow. I was a
little
little afraid about jumping into it, yeah.
But then I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to watch the rest of the series.
So you watched all 10 episodes?
So yesterday, I watched 9 episodes in a row of this series. I know it's a surprise to you because we were only supposed to do the first episode.
No, I'm very happy you did.
Just to see, because I was like, there's no way that Netflix, especially with the pilot that I watched, was going to greenlight this show with how terrible it was.
And so your ending thoughts are?
As the show went on, especially when it hit episodes 8 through 10 and the story kind of picked up, I was like, yes, I can understand why this show was made.
You became engaged.
There's definitely humor to it that I found funny. The problem I think that this show has, one of the biggest problems, is it follows the Royal Crackers route. Because it's like one of those things where the jokes, it's 20 seconds overdue. They overdo it with just how silent it is and how on-running the joke ends up being.
Yeah, unlike a lot of cartoons that we get nowadays, I hear there's a lot of anti-humor, there's awkward conversations, it's slow-moving versus the quick, clever, smack-you-in-the-face dialogue that a lot of shows depend upon.
This wants to be, at its heart, a cross between Agent Elvis and Harley Quinn. And it works in some parts, and then it just seriously fails in others.
How about Final Space? Because those are both about kind of doofus captains who are aboard a ship full of kind of people who are better at the job than they are.
Actually, I would not compare this to Final Space because Final Space tried to have a lot of drama to it, actual drama that you were supposed to care about the characters. Yeah. One of the best things about this show is dramatic heft is not at play at all. And it gets really, really dark at that moment. This is a show that's not afraid to make fun of sex trafficking and human trafficking, so I feel like there does kind of have to be a warning for things like that. Yeah, when I
said smugglers at the beginning, I didn't just mean drugs and stuff. They're smuggling humans.
Yeah, they're smuggling humans.
And then there's violence and
it's more gleefully violent than Agent Elvis is. When this show hits its action, it's not as action packed as Agent Elvis.
I just don't think a lot of people have seen Agent Elvis. So is there any other thing that you could compare it to?
I mean, not really.
Archer?
Because when it comes to bloodshed, it really is just about this show.
Well, let me tell you what people have compared it to and what the show creators have compared it to.
Okay, go ahead.
White Lotus, Barry, Righteous Gemstones, Step Brothers, In Bruges.
I would kind of see Barry because of how dark the show gets, but again, it's always
mix of comedy with the darkness. Like the darkness brings in the comedy.
Yeah, but the darkness is not drama.
Okay. We're definitely going to have to hone in on what you mean by that because, like, give me storylines, give me some examples. What are you talking about?
It's kind of like The Man Who Knew Too Little, that show, because the first episode is about Jonathan Fall. He's a naive, meek, gullible, young, trying to be captain, but he's, like, showing up at the very bottom of the list whenever he's trying to pass the test.
Scores.
Yeah, he's like 282 of 282. And so he decides that he's going to go to a career specialist to see if he can, like, possibly pump up those scores. But then on the other end, you have really the secondary characters. Lisa Burrell was probably my favorite character. Pedro and Nico.
Is it pronounced Lisa and not Liza?
It's Lisa, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they are all part of this cartel, this crime syndicate that is taking place on this bus. And they just need a front man to try and see it so that they can do all of their illegal activities underground. Hence, at the very end of the first episode, why Lisa ends up going to the career specialist, figures out about Jonathan Fall, and then she ends up hiring him before taking out the entire office of career specialists. It was almost like Harley Quinn in that instance.
She murders them all?
Yes, completely, in cold blood.
Right.
But Jonathan Fall doesn't know anything about that. He's at home, and then he's just excited because he's going to be able to be a captain and possibly prove something to his dig brother, Tanner, who I think is voiced by Adam Devine.
Absolutely.
Who I find funny in everything except for this. He was the worst character out of the entire series.
You didn't like Bumper?
In the Bumper in Berlin.
Yes.
I liked Bumper. I did not like Tanner. Tanner is just like, he is a character, kind of like you were saying, it focuses so hard on the anti-humor. He's just a ton of sex jokes that he like keeps on throwing out there. I hated his
Do you remember
character.
Sex Drive? Do you remember James Marsden in that? He played like the big brother. He was funny.
He was funny.
Does this not work?
It doesn't work here because
Sure.
he's only in like 3 episodes, and it's just he's supposed to be kind of like the child that the parents always
so not
like
the same
more.
thing.
Yeah, they even explain that later on in the episode. But the main plot is that Jonathan Fall, he's going to be the captain of the ship, even though he has no idea what he's going to be doing, and this crime syndicate is going to be doing illegal activities underneath.
So throughout this season, how long does it take this guy to finally realize that his ship is not normal?
He never realizes it.
Up until episode 10?
10 episodes in.
There's not even like a cliffhanger in episode 10?
The cliffhanger is supposed to be that there's this good detective named Steele. Agent Steele, they keep calling him.
Yeah.
He's in a couple episodes. He's really trying to
Played
figure
by
out...
Christopher Maloney.
He figures out more about the ship than Jonathan Fall does because he's able to pick up on some clues, and at the very end of the 10th episode, he's like sneaking onto the ship. He's taking pictures of this illegal activity. Like Lisa, Pedro, and Nico, one thing that I was glad that the show did was it never gave them a moral compass. Sure, Lisa ends up caring for Jonathan like kind of episode 8 or 9 in, but it never focuses on trying to make these characters good.
So it does have like the Futurama thing where Fry and what is her face's name? The one with the one eye.
Yeah.
Lila?
Yeah, Lila.
Or something like that? Leela. Yeah, so Lisa and Lila, whatever. That they both like have sort of a relationship going on.
Yes, yeah, it's like a will they, won't they?
Yeah, but where the main character is really dumb. Where Fry is really dumb, where Jonathan is really dumb, the Fall guy,
but where
and she still falls for him.
Leela in Futurama is supposed to be a likable character. Lisa is not.
But she's still your favorite.
My favorite character because, like, especially in the office scene, like I said, this show is not afraid to push its boundaries as much as it can. Like, in episode 3, it centers on a human zoo. You were talking about the creators are from Norway, right?
Yeah, well, 2 of them are.
2 Norwegians are supposed to be the protagonists because they keep on having people from different places, like an actual zoo, but they're supposed to be like up from Britain, from the US, from Norway, from all these different places, and so that But
it's a contemporary timepiece. It's not like some sort of this isn't like the Collector in a Marvel universe where he's just collecting from different areas. This is just some insane person who started stealing people away from different countries.
From actually like putting them in their own little rooms and then having people come in like an actual zoo with animals.
Understood.
And so the main bad guy is really mad at the ship because the ship gave him this Native American tribe.
Yeah.
that showed up in episode 2. They literally roped them in from a helicopter, and they ended up giving it to the main bad guy in that episode, Jan. And Jan, I thought, was one of the best villains because when he brings the Native American tribe to the zoo, they all end up dying. They're all dead.
Is the guy Sorry, is the guy named Mr. Tyrant also a villain?
Mr. Tyrant is the overarching villain, and that's actually something about this show that I did not understand. At the very end of the first season, you would think that Mr. Tyrant you would see him again, but you don't see him at all in the finale. And he doesn't even seem like he's that big a villain.
Well, you said that this was sort of like Barry, right?
Yes.
Okay, because Anthony Carrigan, the guy who played No-Hun Hank, what was his name in the show? No-Ho Hank is Mr. Tyrant.
He's the Tyrant?
Yeah, he's Tyrant. So, like, there's a direct connection.
It makes more sense because No-Ho Hank, at least for the first 3 seasons of Barry, was kind of supposed to be this villain that you weren't supposed to take seriously. And here, Mr. Tyrant almost seems like the same exact way.
Yeah.
Because Lisa and Pedro and Nico, the people that really are the bad guys on the ship, that are using Captain Fall, and it took me way too long to realize that Captain Fall Guy, yes. Not only that, Jonathan Falls is his last name.
Double
so
meaning,
like,
triple meaning, yeah. Quadruple meaning, yeah.
In the show. They are more villainous than Mr. Tyrant even really is.
Sure. No, I get it.
No, you see this in like episode 3 when Jan, he's so mad that the Native American tribe kind of fell sick and they all died that he, Apocalypse Now style, literally it's a reference to it, the Apache helicopters are going to the ship and then Lisa, Pedro, and Nico have to end up taking it out, knock out basically everyone else on the ship, and kill them all.
But you didn't like episode 3. You said, because you said it took until episode 8, 9, and 10 until you were like, this show is
Episode
good.
8, 9, and 10 is when I thought that like the show was at its best. That's really when it was at its kind of Agent Elvis
but
level.
Why?
But episode 3 I thought was the best episode up until that point.
Understood.
Because when you get to episodes 8, 9, and 10, it actually seems like, for example, in episode 8, there's a Sweet 16 that they have to go to. This is off the ship.
That they have to go to,
yeah. No, and it's a classic. It's literally James Bond because Jonathan is he's wearing a suit, like a white tuxedo, and he's having Lisa by his side as kind of like his date, and they have to switch out suitcases just to see, like, because one of them is for like the actual Sweet 16 gift, and another is for a device that's supposed to be like a wire transfer.
Okay.
Like it's crazy, but that was the most predictable. However, still funny, and it seemed like that's what the show was really trying to go for. Stylistic. Whenever you're talking about the animation for this show, it was really good. It was really colorful. It was sadly a little bit like the My Story animated YouTube channel sometimes.
It's funny because Joel Trussell got some of his start on YouTube. He did like some War Machine video or something like that, and then I think he like bounced around, did a lot of like freelancing for a while until he settled with Netflix. But he's done, I think, a lot with Netflix, and so I'm sure he'd be happy to hear you say that.
This also kind of takes from Venture Bros, because a lot of Venture Bros episodes the show's called Venture Bros, but it doesn't even focus on the ship. The same thing with this. Captain Fall has multiple episodes where they're only in it for like 1 or 2 scenes, and they go off on a completely separate like adventure. For example, the Steel character that I was talking about, the actual good detective.
Yeah.
He has his like
Law and Order guy.
He has like 2. Wait, that's
Christopher Maloney.
I didn't recognize that was
the
his
name when I said it.
Yeah. He has his own adventure that he goes on where he's trying to figure out, because he knows that there's this like wooden box with a paw on it, and he realizes that must have some type of illegal activity to the ship that has the same type of wooden box paws on it.
It sounds kind of like the Andy Samberg show that we watched a while back, where he was like a good detective, but at the same time really corny. The Nicolas Cage ripoff one.
Yes.
I forgot what that was called. We did it for the show, so we should remember it. But yeah, I think that it's borrowing a lot from other comedies that have come out there.
You're talking about Digman.
Yes, Digman.
Yeah,
and like I already compared it to another period, the great, like it feels like, even though you said it was super dark and that there's like people have compared it to Chuck and BoJack, and it feels like there's so much stuff.
Chuck and BoJack both have a story to it. There are some clunkers in this show that I should
So there's the good and there's the bad.
There's the really bad.
You can kind of see that.
There's a full episode having to deal with Tanner that I absolutely hated because I hated Tanner's character.
Okay.
Full of sex jokes. He gets basically Me Too'd. He tries to end up calling Jonathan to try and get on.
Clone High, right?
Yes.
Wasn't the first episode of that
about
someone getting Me Too'd?
Yeah.
Abe Lincoln?
Here I actually liked seeing it because Tanner was just such an idiotic person. Yeah, and he tries to call Jonathan, tries to get on the ship, and then Jonathan ends up saying no. Sometimes the payoff of the episodes weren't even really that good either because they didn't do anything. For example, I have to bring up episode 4. Episode 4 is probably the worst episode of the entire year, and I'm including Velma, I'm including all the bad shows. 2 out of 10. The only reason why I'm giving it a 2 out of 10 is because David Schwimmer makes a cameo appearance.
And you hate David Schwimmer. You hate Friends.
I just said that I'm giving it a point for that.
Okay.
Joel and Viv doesn't have anything to do with the boat storyline at all. The both characters are practically barely in it. It's about a husband and a wife, and they are going to be going to a swingers party. For the first, 5 minutes, I was just trying to see where the episode was heading, but it pissed me off so much because when they get to the swingers party, Joel is really into it. That's David Schwimmer's character. He's really wanting to sleep with other people, and then he ends up meeting this girl. They go into a separate room. He's not able to get hard, even though he stopped at a convenience store to get Viagra. And then that was all his storyline. He goes back upstairs, and then his wife
is with her.
No.
Oh, okay.
His wife. He goes into a separate room. His wife is getting fucked by 9 people.
Wow.
It was seriously infuriating because at the end of the night, Joel and Viv, they get back in the car. Viv is really happy about the whole entire scenario. Joel is fuming. He stops at the convenience store again, goes to the convenience manager and is like, this Viagra that I got didn't work. And then the convenience store manager is like, okay, come into the back. I have some magic for you. That's what he refers to it as. Okay. And then it cut.
So it's kind of gross. It's gross.
Incredibly gross. And then he ends up dying. They cut to the next thing. No, it wasn't funny. I hated it so much. Joel ends up dying, and then the cops or the agents from the first episode that are kind of going through this the boat kind of investigation, they realize that there's a string of deaths in the area as to this magic drug that people are taking because they literally have boners as they're dead. And then they go to the convenience store because they realize that the convenience manager must be selling these people that, and then the convenience store blows up. And then that's the end of the episode. Had absolutely nothing to do with the main plot. Didn't bring the story along at all. I hated it so much. There was no reason for it.
I think I'm going to just say, repeat a quote that Joel Trussell said. And it's just because you can do it with animation doesn't mean you should.
And they absolutely did.
For one episode.
Let's
concentrate on the good, because I want to know what happens in 8, 9, 10. What finishes off this season that makes you want to continue it?
The show is at its best when it's taking place on the boat, and you are able to see Captain Fall and every one of the crew members kind of...
is he becoming a better captain?
So they actually do have a little bit of a transformative moment where in episode 2, he's afraid to kind of address the crew and everyone on the ship. And then in episode 10, he's able to do so.
Yeah.
But...
So he's able to public speak better. He's gotten a little bit more confidence.
But when you are watching 10 episodes, you expect at some point for the shoe to drop. And like I said, it never does. Captain Fall ends up at one point in episode 6, I think. He's going downstairs and he's about to finally catch the legal business doing what it's going to do. And then he gets knocked out. So it's
I feel like he would be so oblivious, though. They could also just make up an excuse on the spot and he'd believe them.
Well, also, that kind of makes sense because in episode 9, he ends up going out with Lisa, which I think was one of the kind of the laziest parts of the thing, because one of the things I liked about Lisa was that she had no moral compass. She's not afraid to kill people in this show, and then in the end she ends up having to go out with...
She could be like the Brooklyn Nine-Nine character, the one who's very hardcore, but then at the same time still had a heart inside deep. It's very deep
no,
inside,
it's shown because in episode 9, Lisa, it's on vacation now. The cruise is on vacation. Lisa and Jonathan end up going to Jonathan's parents' house. Jonathan's parents, I hated. I hated them as well. Okay. And they are introduced to Tanner, and when they are all out, because Jonathan now is the child that the parents like, they don't care anything about Tanner. They go to this country club just so that the parents can get this card because their kid is a captain and it should really help them. They're rich assholes. What boils down to is what happens at the house. Tanner tries to hit on Lisa, and then Lisa ties him up naked.
Okay.
And then threatens him and is like, you have to start acting nice to Jonathan now. And then Tanner's character completely changes. And that's what happens in episode 9. Even though, again, it was predictable, I thought that was one of the best episodes because it at least had something going on. In episode 10, there is a singles cruise, which is really just a front so Al Germain, a client of Mr. Tyrant, can find a wife. But however...
So, every episode, they have the bad part of the crew in the back doing their own thing, and Captain Fall is thinking that, other events are happening up in the front, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. He's thinking that this is really just actually a singles cruise where people are trying to find love, but really it's just a way
so it's like a love boat.
So it's just a way so that the people underground can knock out everybody and take the person that Al Germain finds to be the prettiest and then put him on, a helicopter and they can leave.
So the crew is working with Mr. Tyrant, then?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, the crew is always working with Mr.
Understood.
Tyrant.
Yeah.
And so then Steele, he's taking pictures of this whole entire thing, and at the very end of the season, the cliffhanger that we are left off with is Steele. He is speaking to Jonathan, and he's telling him that he's going to be his worst nightmare. He doesn't even know who Steele is.
So he's come to the wrong conclusion.
Steele comes to the conclusion that Jonathan is is the main bad guy behind the whole entire thing. Basically, Mr. Tyrant. And then he ends up falling off the boat or jumps off the boat.
Captain Fall does? Or
no, Steele.
So
I thought that Jonathan Fall at that point would realize something, but it doesn't even seem like it does because the episode just ends there.
But you're curious to see where it goes from there.
I mean, I guess kind of.
What's your verdict on the whole thing?
I would give the whole thing a 5 out of 10 because although the majority of the episodes I had passing, I could take 1 point off of every episode and not really be that concerned with my rating. This seems like it has something, but it's not even really like the audience or the critics have figured out what that something is yet.
So it hasn't met its potential quite yet.
If it stayed away from the shock humor, because like I said, episode 4 was awful. Literally is going to be on my worst of list. Made the plots more relevant to the story because there are so many different side plots that this thing has that doesn't even tie back into the episode and didn't beat every single joke into the ground, much like Royal Crackers did, because this show could honestly be on Adult Swim. I think it would be a lot better. That's why I'm going to give the show a 5 out of 10.
All right. Well, I do have some interesting facts to throw your way. Paul Rubens, he unfortunately died on Sunday, July 30th, Pee Wee Herman. One of the shows you might not know that he was in, he was actually part of the Vampire Council in season 1 of What We Do in the Shadows.
No, I saw that. I checked.
You remember that?
I didn't remember. I checked Pee Wee Herman's Wikipedia.
Yeah, but I think it was like him and the Marvel lady, the Miss Marvel, like she was there too.
Yeah, no, there was a ton of people there. I remember they said Wesley Snipes, except it wasn't actually him, but you had the people from the original film as well. Yeah, episode 7.
But speaking of What We Do in the Shadows, that was actually the show that inspired, or actually not the show but the movie. The original movie,
yeah, right,
is what inspired them to make the Norseman show. And so once they did that, though, Jermaine found out about the Norseman show, and so he knew about that. And then what happens? Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement start working on a live-action swashbuckling comedy about the ocean in the past, right? Which is kind of similar to Norseman, and that's called Our Flag Means Death, which came out last year.
Yeah.
Big hit.
On HBO,
right?
I think, yeah.
And it feels like it's a convergent evolution of ideas because then you have this show, which was pitched to Netflix. And I think Netflix might have even known about the whole Our Flag Means Death and thought maybe that humor would have been too similar if they had made a live action version of it. Because
and you're saying that's why they ended up doing it?
No. I'm completely speculating that, right? And so I was just thinking, it's funny how the thing that inspired you ended up, those creators ended up doing something rather similar because Our Flag Means Death, I think Rhys Darby plays a captain where he doesn't know what his ship is up to, right? He's not a good captain by any means.
The thing about this show is there's so much action and there's so much, crazy stuff that happens. Obviously, they might have changed that all in post with animation or when they were writing it, but I don't think that they could have done a live-action version of Captain Fall because it just seems like too much craziness would be they can portray it.
It definitely adapted as they brought in the whole animation team and Joel Trussell. And Joel Trussell went on and did an AMA on Reddit last week or something, right? And while I was doing research for this, I saw that he was still answering questions. And so I reached out to him and I thought, okay, what if we got the show creator to throw in a little fact or something like that? And he actually did. He was nice enough to tell me that so you said that who was the brother's name?
Really fast, you're saying that Joel Trussell actually responded to your comment?
Yeah, do you want me to just read the comment straight out? Okay, I'll read the comment straight out. It says, hey, sure thing. One weird fact is Jason Ritter originally auditioned to be Tanner, and he was amazing. We were committed to having him play the role. As we went further into the process, we had some difficulty finding our Jonathan. Someone brought up the idea of Jason trying for the lead role, and he nailed that too. Once we had Adam Devine in place to play Tanner, it seemed like all the puzzle pieces finally lined up. We feel really lucky to have the cast and guest stars that signed on. Hope the podcast goes well. He's a really nice guy. But point is that surprising to you? Do you think that the main character could have played the Dick brother?
I mean, I don't think so but again, I've only really heard him. The voice acting, I thought
he's the same guy from another period. Like he was in that
I was trying to figure out who Jason Ritter was. He's basically, you know what he is? Yeah. He's Michael Cera. He's Michael Cera in every single thing that he's ever been in, whether it be Arrested Development. That's the Captain Fall character.
Yes.
He's Arrested Development, that character, the Barbie movie. Anything
I've seen
else.
him play comedy. I've also seen him play serious in like The Event. He was the main star of that.
Okay.
And again, his dad was super famous. I remember seeing his dad in Scrubs, so unfortunately passed away, John Ritter. But
I was wondering if he was possibly the brother of Kristen Ritter, but
I don't think so either. But he does have a big family. Like I think his grandpa was like named Tex Ritter or something like that.
Tex Ritter?
Yeah, like it's a cool name, isn't it? Tex. Anyways, but that's how I want to end it. Besides just going through the reviews real quick, it has a 6.7 on IMDb. Decider said stream it. It's nuanced with an actual story. They have written 10 more episodes, recorded them, storyboarded them. They're ready to release them, but they need people to watch it now. So even though you said you're only going to give it a 5 out of 10, I would recommend people go in and check out like a couple episodes and try to get those numbers up for them.
If you are going to watch the show, I think the best way to do it is the way that I did it, which is binge watch it. This isn't a show that you should really spread out. If you have like a day off and you're interested in it, I would probably say watch all 10 episodes there because it's going to be a lot more easy to digest and yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.